So there is no insect that has confused the fuck out of me more than the caddisfly. And it's not that they're super confusing on their own or are super weird or that I've never heard of them before. Thing is, I have known about these things all my life and I have been aware of and around them. I just didn't know what they actually were. So this is the adult caddisfly, but up until literally like a month ago, I did not know that's what this was. I have been well acquainted with this insect over my entire life, but I didn't know that this was a caddisfly. Because my entire life, I have known these as river moths, and everybody around me calls these guys river moths. That's what I knew these as, so I just assumed that they were moths, and they were related to moths and all that. They're called, like, everyone I've ever known has called these things river moths, so that's just a logical next step. But these are not actually moths. They are somewhat related to moths, but these guys are in the order Trichoptera, whereas moths and butterflies are in the order Lepidoptera. So they're somewhat closely related, but they're not closely related enough to be in the same order. And I did not know that's what these things were until I collected a couple of them for my collection and I ran them through my insect identifier apps and it came up as Trichoptera caddisflies instead of Lepidoptera moths. And then I thought that was the end of my caddisfly confusion, but no. This is the larva of the caddisfly. And so you can kind of see from this picture, right over at this end here, that's its head. And this kind of chunky part, that's actually not part of the insect itself. This is a kind of shell structure that the larva constructs around itself for protection. It acts as like a protective shield as well as camouflage, so it doesn't get eaten by predators and stuff as easily. And again, these were nothing new to me. I have been very well acquainted with these, again, most of my life. When I was a kid, we had these in a little creek growing up, and they make these very distinct trails in the sand because that shell thing is pretty heavy, so as they move, they drag it along, and you can follow those trails to the larva, and then you can find them, pick them up, play with them, being very careful with them, not to disturb their shell or anything or hurt them, but we would just go follow the trails through the creek and then find them, and yeah. And I was first introduced to these by one of my older cousins when they were up visiting, and she called them periwinkles. And so that is what I have known them by my entire life. I was just assumed, like, yeah, these little guys, these are periwinkles. There was no logical link between the periwinkles and the river moths. And so I just went my entire 21 years of life thinking that caddisflies weren't a thing. I didn't know what caddisflies were. And I thought that the adult caddisflies, those are river moths, and the larval caddisflies, those were periwinkles, two different things. And I thought that literally until right now, when I was studying for my lab exam, we were going over Trichoptera, and then I saw the image, because I guess I wasn't paying attention when we went over it in lab. Oops. But I was going over the slides for the Trichoptera, and I was like, oh wait, holy fuck, I know what that is. Hold on a second. And then it finally clicked, because I haven't thought about periwinkles in a while. That's not something that generally lives as rent-free in my head as other insects and stuff. So I just fucking blew my own mind when I realized that those two separate things, those things that I thought were two separate bugs, are actually just the same thing, and I wasn't even misinformed. There's just no reason to put those two separate things in my mind together. So yeah, now I know that river moths aren't actually moths, and they are caddisflies, and so are periwinkles. I learned a new thing. Oh, actually, I didn't even learn it. I just made the connection with that. Go me.